and everybody got quiet, and I did the truffle shuffle, and everybody went nuts, and then it became a tradition at games when I was playing. In the fourth quarter, they'd always have me do the truffle shuffle, so I get a kick out of it, man. I think it's funny. You know, there's a saying, it's actually Peter Ustinov said this, and I believe it a lot. We should take our duties, but not ourselves, too seriously.
Sure.
You know?
Sure.
So, actually, I messed it up. We should take our duties and not ourselves seriously. I don't take myself very seriously, but, you know, I take my, you know, obligations as a lawyer and as a professional very seriously. But the fact that, you know, Chunk is still a cool thing and, you know, people, you know, have truffle shuffle T-shirts, I think it's great. I think it's hilarious.
So, take me back to that day, though. I mean, you didn't really want to do that, right, in the movie?
You're saying, at the time. Well, the reason I really didn't want to do it is because I had the chicken pox.
Okay.
And I kind of hid that. I was in the later stages of the chicken pox, and most of them were on my belly. So I was afraid that when they saw I had the chicken pox, they'd fire me. I know that's really weird, but, you know, so it's funny. Actually, in the truffle shuffle shirt, if you actually look close, you can still see I have, like, chicken pox on my belly. But, yeah, it was embarrassing, but, you know, whatever. It's all in good fun.
Was it
being a clown, right?
Was it in, I mean, it was in the script, right?
Yep, yeah.
And
it was in the original script.
Did you ever ask Chris Columbus, like, where it came from or how he thought it up or anything like that?
No. You know, Chris came. I mean, it was. You know, Chris came to the set. You know, a few times, but we never really asked. I never really spoke to him about it.
Gotcha. Interesting. All right, and so tell me about working with the guys. I mean, I'm sure this became an insanely close unit of people over those 5 months of shooting, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's great. You know, it's, you know, once a Goonie, you know, always a Goonie. You're Goonie for life, you know. So it's great. I think it's a really cool bond, you know. And if I ever see, like, you know, Josh Brolin or Sean or Key or anybody, like, you know, there's a bond for making that movie. It was a great experience.
Right. Yeah. And then one of the things that I really get a kick out of in the movie is how they've dressed you like you're a 50-year-old like New York Jew.
Well, it's funny. Like my thought on it was, you know, it's funny if you look at every '80s, like every '80s movie with the fat guy.
Mm-hmm.
The fat guy, you know, just in case you didn't get that this is the fat guy, you know, will be wearing either a Hawaiian shirt to be like, oh, that's the fat guy, you know, or plaid pants. But Chunk was the first character to wear both, to bring it to the next level, to turn it to 11, as they say in Spinal Tap, to wear both the Hawaiian shirt and the plaid pants, and the rest is movie history. So I've said enough.
Well, yeah, it's like they could take Chunk and put him in an episode of Seinfeld as like a Seinfeld family member, and it would work perfectly, you know?
You're right, yeah, for
next
sure.
to Uncle Leo, Chunk walking down the street would be awesome.
Exactly.
Tell me about working with the great Anne Ramsey.
Anne was the best. You know, she was... Anne and her husband, Logan Ramsey, who was also a great actor, they lived in the Valley, and I lived in the Valley as well. So when I was a kid, like, you know, my family, like, we would spend holidays with them, and they were kind of like, you know, they're kind of like grandparents to me. And Anne and Logan were just the best. They had the best stories, and, you know, these great old acting stories about working and, you know, working on Broadway and doing off Broadway. And Logan was like on an episode of Star Trek, and he'd tell me like was like working on Star Trek in the '60s, and, you know, and Anne was just the sweetest person. Loved them, missed them, and, you know, the fact that she was nominated for Best Supporting Actress for Throw Mama from the Train, I think was great, and for her was a really nice highlight, you know, for her career. So I'm glad that before she passed, she was able to get that nomination. I think that meant a lot to her.
Sure. And then what about John Matuszak?
Matuszak was huge, man. I mean, Matuszak was, you know, I believe it's funny. You know, I think Matuszak was the #1 overall draft when he was drafted to the NFL. He was the biggest. I think he was the biggest player in the NFL when he played. He was 6'9". And, you know, it's funny, like I watched like old, you know, like old Raiders footage of him as a defensive lineman. He's an absolute monster. I couldn't even imagine. You know, John was great. I think really talented, really patient, you know, certainly a gentle giant, you know, around all those kids. And, you know, because back then it was pre-CGI, so to get the effects, it was all makeup.
Sure,
So
absolutely.
he would have to come in. I mean, my God, he'd have to like come in at like 4 in the morning and have like 5 hours of makeup before we started filming, and the ear was operated via remote control, and the lower eye was remote control. So for him to blink, they'd have to say 1, 2, 3, blink. If they were going to film him blinking, it was. I mean, it was crazy. He had crazy discipline. Really sad that he passed away, but it's amazing. He made his mark, and as an actor and also an athlete, which is pretty rare.
Well, yeah, he was great. There was that film he did right before Goonies. I'm sure you've seen it, called
Pirates.
Ice Pirates. Yeah.
Yeah, he was great in Ice Pirates.
Oh, yeah, Ice Pirates.
Hey, he was also in Caveman, right, with Ringo Starr?
Yes.
Yeah, he was. Just a really, really nice guy, and died too young.
Sure, right, absolutely. So, tell me about because one of the things that sort of struck me as interesting in the commentary as I was revisiting it was a lot of people commented on like the sort of the awe, like how in awe they were of like that pirate ship set.
Yeah.
But you didn't comment on that, so I wanted to see what your insights were on being on that set and what it was like, and I mean, as a kid, it must have been something really incredible, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it's probably because they're the one. The other Goonies are the ones who actually see it for the first time when they see it.
Right.
So when I see it later. But they hid it from me. Just as they hid it from the other kids. I mean, it was amazing. That set is incredible. And it's actually the biggest. I think it's the biggest soundstage on the Warner Brothers lot.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of nice. Outside the soundstage currently, they have basically a plaque that lists like various like big time movies that were shot there.
Uh-huh.
And it's like it was like The Cave, I think in the 1990 Batman, like that's where they did it. And like they have Goonies as one of the films that they list there as well, which is really cool. I thought, it was an amazing set. It was funny, they dug out the cement so they could have that lake.
Mm-hmm.
And because I was the shortest one, for safety reasons, the lake was made basically up to my neck.
Wow.
So it was amazing because the whole thing was up to my neck, other than the part right under the plank, the plank at the end of the boat. So
Mm-hmm.
when the stuntmen jumped off of that, they could, they'd be safe. But it was a beautiful, amazing 360 set because it covered all of the walls, because it's like the walls of the soundstage were the walls of the set, so it was like 360. It was incredible. It was incredible.
Sure. I look at some of the scenes in the Goonies, like we talked about like the hand going in the blender and
Sure.
being with the dead body in the cooler, and
yeah.
It's like how I don't understand like how you were weren't scarred from this in some sort of way, because it's not necessarily a kids movie, right? I mean looking back at it now, to me it's a kids movie, right? But I can't see a kid watching it now at 5 or 6 years old and thinking.
Well, that's a good. It's funny. I mean, it is pretty funny, because
hilarious.
It's like because it's a kids movie, but there's tons of cursing. I mean, there's tons of cursing in that movie for a PG movie.
Right.
And you're right. Like they're gonna put Chunk's hand in a blender, and the Fratellis are pulling a gun on the kids, and I got locked up with a monster, and I mean, I mean. It's certainly not, Disney Channel. It's certainly not, current like Disney Channel fare.
Right.
But I think the reason why that it works still, why parents now watch it with their kids, which makes me really happy, is because Dick Donner, wanted us to behave like kids.
Uh-huh.
He wanted, and look, kids curse and kids talk over each other and kids push each other.
Sure.
And he wanted it to be as natural as 6 kid actors, or 7 kid actors could be,
Right.
And I think that element of kids being kids is what I think that's why the movie holds up, and I'm really happy about that. Like I love I'll get emails or Facebook messages and stuff where people say that they they just showed the movie to their kids and their kids love it, and that I get a big kick out of that. I think that's great.
Good. I just got a couple more, okay?
Sure.
What the hell ever happened to the rumors about Goonies 2, you guys coming back as parents and stuff like that? Whatever happened to that?
I'm not totally sure. I mean, I know that there's been rumors of Goonies 2.
Uh-huh.
Personally, I mean, and it's easy for me to say this because I'm not an actor anymore. I'm an entertainment lawyer, but I mean, I think. There was never a Casablanca 2,
Right.
There's never a, Citizen Kane 2,
Right.
like, I mean, I'm happy with it as it is. I mean, I think it's kind of nice to exist just as it exists.
But I mean, if the opportunity arose, would you take it?
I mean, I'm not an actor. What I think actually makes more sense is if they wanted to do a sequel. When Ghostbusters did this, you do a video game sequel.
Yeah.
That, where you have, you can actually maybe even have the same characters and, have, people do voice match for the kids or whatever. But like, for me, it works more as a video game than like an immersive video game more than an actual film. I mean, it's a long time ago. It's 1985. It's almost 30 years ago.
I know, right? Isn't it crazy? Yeah.
I think anytime you do a sequel that long after the original, most of the time it's not going to turn out great. Whether it's Money Never Sleeps, the Wall Street sequel, or the Two Jakes, which is the sequel to Chinatown. When you ever wait that long from the original to the sequel, it's usually not great. It's usually not great. So I mean, to me, if they were going to do a sequel, you do it the Ghostbusters way, and you just do a really cool video game.
Sure. And then, do you have a favorite? In terms of a scene that you were involved in, do you have a favorite scene or a favorite line?
I think the blender scene is my favorite. You know what I mean?
Nice.
Yeah, that was like, that for me, because as a kid I was really nervous about doing that one because I knew I'd have to cry and I knew, I had a lot of lines and all the things that you worry about. But I was really happy with how that came out. I thought that was great.
And then one of the things I found interesting too in the commentary was you had said that in order to cry, you had to think of your mom passing away.
Yeah, and just as much as that was Robert Davi, because he's a lunatic, pulling the hair out of the back of my neck, which he denies doing, but he totally did it. And he would pull the little hairs like out of the back of my neck, and it hurt so bad, and it made me cry, and it worked. And that was at the time I was mad, but now that I'm older, it was a great assist. It was I'm eternally indebted for Robert Davi pulling the hair out of the back of my neck because it made me cry, and it worked. Those are real tears, man.
Yeah, he's nuts. I interviewed him once, and he was awesome, but he was sort of out there.
Yeah, he's got like a great career now.
Yeah,
as a
musician,
singer. He does,
right?
Sinatra covers.
Yeah.
He's doing great.
Absolutely, yeah. And then my last question for you is,
sure.
I mean, what do you think? What do you think is the what is the? I guess we talked about how the response to the movie is so great, but I mean, like, what does the film mean to you? I mean, looking back, is there a favorite moment you had in making it, or spending time with the people? I mean, what's your best? I guess my question is, so what's your best Goonies story? The one your fondest memory of working on that show?
I mean, it's hard to pick like one particular instant.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think. I mean, look, I came, I was kind of, I came from, broken home, San Fernando Valley, and, by getting to, work with Richard Donner, by getting to become friends with him, for me, just that opened up a whole new world.
Sure.
Even beyond the movie, just like as a human being, it just opened up like a whole new world, and to become friends with, Dick, and to have him in certain ways be a mentor to me, is the best thing I got out of it. I mean, that absolutely changed my life.